The archive in C14. I watched myself sprint down corridor C while I sat alone in a locked security office. On the monitor, the other Micah stopped beneath camera 14 and looked straight up at me. He raised one hand, palm out. Wait. Then the corridor door behind my chair began to shake. The handle jumped twice. I kept one eye on it and one on the screen. The monitor went back to an empty hall, but its timestamp stayed at 2:18 a.m. My phone said 2:11. So did the wall clock and the punch clock beside the desk. The door stopped shaking. I had taken the final overnight shift because half the complex would be emptied before demolition. In the failed rear wing, shelves moved without commands and fire shutters dropped on empty floors. No one was allowed in corridor C. That rule was the reason I had wanted the shift. Unit C14 held my sister Annika's oral history archive. 16 boxes had been locked there during a dispute over her estate. By morning, a disposal crew would clear the condemned row. Annika had asked every person the same question. If you lost everything and could save one box, which box would you choose? She never accepted a list. One box, she would remind them. Make the loss real, then tell me what remains. Her own answer was in the last box. Her daughter, Lena, wanted to hear it before strangers reduced the archive to inventory. I had promised I would bring it to her. The monitor changed cameras. At the far end of corridor B, the displayed Micah backed away from a blind corner and pressed himself against the wall. I was still in the office at 2:12. I called Tori Bell. She was the senior guard, which meant every failure in the building found its way to her report. She had gone outside to check a gate sensor. Every clock agrees except the cameras when I am on them, I said. Those are 7 minutes ahead. Stay in the office, she said. I am coming back. Do not open corridor C. A crash sounded beyond the door. The metal bowed inward and settled. I should have waited. Instead, I unlocked it and looked into the hall. Nothing moved. Corridor B began around the corner to my right. I had about 5 minutes before the time I had seen. I stepped out, then stopped short of the turn. At 2:17, a motor whined ahead. My first thought was that another door had failed. I leaned forward to look, remembered the displayed Micah, and flattened myself against the wall. A maintenance cart rolled out of the blind corner fast enough to cross the hall and strike the office door. The handle shook twice. If I had taken one more step, it would have hit me. I ran after it before it reached the stairs. At 2:18, I passed under camera 14 and looked up. My hand rose by itself, or close enough to feel that way. I gave the waiting gesture I had already seen. The dark lens offered no answer. Back in the office, I opened all 12 feeds. Empty rooms showed the current time. The gate and loading bay matched my phone. Whenever I entered a frame, its timestamp moved 7 minutes forward. The lead was not attached to a camera. It followed me. I tried to prove it was only guessing. On the office feed, displayed Micah picked up the blue pen beside the logbook. I decided to take the black one. Before I moved, the hand on the screen changed direction and took the black pen. I left both pens alone. I reached into my pocket for a coin and displayed Micah was already rolling it across his fingers. I called heads and flipped. The displayed coin landed tails. 7 minutes later, so did mine. The tests did not make me feel less trapped. They made me feel studied. At 2:24, the gate feed changed to 2:31. Displayed Tori came in from the lot and checked the latch. I see you, I said into the phone. No one answered. Then Tori spoke behind me. See me where? I turned hard enough to strike the desk. She stood inside the office with her radio in one hand. The only door was locked. I could see the bolt seated in the frame. How did you get in? Through that door. You watched me do it. On the gate feed, her displayed double kept walking toward the building. Tori unlocked the office, stepped into the hall, and raised her hand under the nearest camera. Her real hand did not appear on screen. The displayed Tori passed through the same hall without looking at her. Tori came back in and locked us inside. It is not showing 7 minutes ahead, she said. It is deciding which version gets to count. She watched her double cross 2 more feeds. At the matching time, no one entered through the gate. The current lot remained empty. Then the system selected camera 14. Displayed Micah stood outside unit C14. He cut its red seal with Torai's utility knife, opened the door, and entered. Annika's archive case rested on a table behind him. Displayed Micah faced the lens. He touched 2 fingers to his wrist and pulled them away, cut the recording. Annika used that signal when an interview became too private. She had taught it to me when I helped with sound and used it once after I asked a careless question. I had not seen it since her last year. "Did you plan to open that unit?" Torai asked. "I planned to ask you. That was not my question." I told her about the archive and my promise to Lena. Then I told her why the last recording mattered to me. During Annika's final months, I made myself useful in every way that kept me from sitting with her. I filled forms, arranged rides, and left groceries outside her door. When she called, she wanted to argue, complain without being corrected, or sit in silence. I started letting the calls go unanswered. Once I saw her name and decided I would call after dinner when I could be patient. I remembered that decision much better than I remembered dinner. I never called. The message she left remained unopened until the phone failed. I told people I had lost her final words. The more honest version was that I had refused them when they were still mine to hear. Annika's last interview might contain her answer about the box. It might also mention me. I wanted proof that she had understood. I wanted her recorded voice to settle an argument I had been having alone. Torai looked at the screen, not at me. "So it found the one door you would open after being warned," she said. She replayed the security buffer. The pen, the coin, and the step away from the cart were ordinary actions. The cut signal was different. Displayed Micah had aimed it at the observer. "Maybe copying it is what gives that version weight," Torai said. "It saved you first. Now you trust it enough to follow. You should leave. Your week stays clean if you were never part of this." Torai's next contract required an incident-free final week. One verified safety event could cancel the offer. I had heard her remind the day crew of that every shift. She clipped the radio to her belt. "The building put a man on a screen who is not where the man is. My clean week is already over. I am not leaving you here so the report looks better." We tried the lobby. Its shutter dropped before we reached it. The staff stair locked as we turned toward it. Only the door leading toward Corridor C released. On-screen, Displayed Micah took that route with Displayed Torai behind him. Torai covered the monitors, found a service map, and chose a route through the supply room away from every displayed path. The building became quiet. No carts moved. No locks snapped. Even the alarm panel stopped blinking. "It needs an audience," Torai said. Then she saw a small diagnostic screen mounted below the desk. We had missed it because it faced the floor. It showed C14. Annika stood beside the archive case, looking as she had before she became ill. One hand rested on the lid. She turned it toward the camera, revealing a white label with Lena's name. I reached for the service door. Torai caught my sleeve. "First it saved your body. Now it is offering your sister." I pulled my hand back. The image changed. Displayed Torai walked alone toward C14 while every alarm behind her went dark. The exit gates opened one by one. A green status line read "System Secure." Torai had spent the week trying to deliver a safe building to people who had already decided it was disposable. The screen had found her version of the archive. "It wants me to fix it," she said. "Can you look away? I can do more than that." She pulled the diagnostic cable from the wall. Every alarm started at once. The supply door slammed between us. Through its wired glass, I saw Torai throw herself sideways as a powered shelf rolled across the service passage. She cleared its edge, but a second rack pinned the far door and carried her toward Corridor C. "I am still moving," she said over the radio. "Stay off the marked route." The lights failed. Emergency strips came on along one path only. They pointed toward C14. The mechanical camera cutoff was in an alcove beside that unit, so I returned to the security office for the key. Air surged through the vents. The forms and jackets slid from the screens. The monitors showed a complete sequence. The first image was stamped 304. The office clock said 2:57. Displayed Tori entered C14. A shelf blocked the door. Displayed Micah took Annika's case and walked through the front gate alone. The last camera stayed on C14. Tori never came out. It was a solution made to look reasonable. Keep my promise. Recover Annika's answer. Survive. Tell myself Tori knew the risk. All I had to do was become the man already wearing my face. I covered the screens again and took the cut-off key. Tell me what you see, I said into the radio. Shelf tracks on both sides, manual wheel on the west wall. I got a locking pin into one rail, but it will not hold long. The feed says I leave with the archive. Then make it wrong. I moved through the dark, counting doors by touch. Lights came on ahead, trying to pull me back onto the displayed route. I turned away. At C14, the red seal lay cut on the floor. That was not me, Tori said. Inside, the powered shelves had shifted out of line. Tori had wedged herself behind one row and braced the locking pin with both hands. The archive case sat in the clear center aisle, exactly where the footage had placed it. The wheel is behind me, she said. You need to get under the shutter before you can reach it. The route passed the archive. I lifted the case. The shelf motors stopped. The aisle opened toward the exit. The building was rewarding me. Tori's pin bent. Her gap narrowed. I put the case down. The fire shutter released above us. My radio clock changed to 3:04 as the shutter fell between Tori and me. I caught its lower edge, but its weight drove me to my knees. The archive was on my side. Tori and the manual wheel were on the other. A wall monitor came alive behind me. It showed the shutter breaking my grip if I held on. Showed Tori disappearing behind the shelves if I let go. Then it showed Lena opening the archive beside me. The pictures changed whenever I looked from one choice to another. That was the clearest thing the system had shown me all night. It was not revealing a fixed future. It was searching for the picture that would make me obey. Micah, let go before it takes your hands, Tori said. The case will hold it. She understood before I moved. There may be another way. There is not enough time to find it. For once, I did not ask a dead woman to make the choice easier. I shoved Annika's archive beneath the shutter. The metal struck the case and pressed down. Its shell split. The recorders cracked first, then the drives and tape housings. The shutter kept grinding until the contents had flattened into the track. There were no copies. Annika had refused cloud storage for private interviews, and the estate server had been wiped months earlier. The case held the masters, including the one voice Lena had asked me to save. The gap stopped at knee height. The wall monitor showed Lena staring at me. Her face changed into Annika's, then mine. I crawled under without looking again. Tori guided my hand to the wheel while she held the failing pin. I turned until the shelf released a few inches. She pulled one shoulder free, took the wheel from me, and ordered me to drag the pin clear. Together we opened enough space for her to step out. We reached the electrical alcove. Tori broke the safety cover on the mechanical cutoff with her flashlight. Once we pull this, the front locks should fail open, she said. Should. I still work here for another few hours, I have to say should. We pulled the lever together. The camera lenses went dark. The shelf motors stopped. Heavy locks released toward the lobby, one after another. We passed the security office on our way out. Its monitors still glowed on backup power, even with every camera dead. They replayed the future we had refused. Displayed Tori entered C14. Displayed Micah left with the archive. Both images faded. Then another Micah appeared. He carried nothing. He walked the exact patrol the screens had prescribed and stopped beneath every camera. No footsteps followed him through the real hall. At camera 14, he turned toward us and gave Annika's cut the recording signal. Then he continued into the condemned wing without me. Tori pulled me away from the screen. We left before it could offer another ending. In the official report, Tori recorded the equipment failures, false timestamps, moving shelves, and her order to use the archive as an emergency brace. She could have blamed me and protected her record. She signed her name to the truth instead. Her next employer withdrew the contract before noon. When I apologized, she said she had made her own choice and did not need me turning it into another debt. Then she asked whether I was going to tell Lena or make Tori do that too. I called Lena 3 days later. I told her I had gone there for Annika's final recording. I told her the archive was gone, not damaged, not waiting for restoration. Gone. I told her I had used it to hold a shutter open so Tori and I could get out. Then I told her why I had wanted that last interview so badly. I had hoped Annika would forgive me on a recording because a recording could not ask me to answer. Lena was silent for a long time. "You promised me her voice," she said. "I know. And you chose someone I have never met." "Yes. Do not tell me Mom would have wanted that. You do not get to use her for your answer now." I said she was right. She asked if I had listened to any of the final recording. I said no. She asked if even one transcript survived. I said no again. "Then I do not know what to do with you," she said. She ended the call. I wanted to call back and explain the 7 minutes, the shelves, and the face on the monitor. All of it was true. None of it would return what I had promised. Instead, I wrote down what I remembered about Annika, not the polished things people said after she died. She corrected anyone who called her patient. She laughed at her interview questions and hated when people called that charming. She could sit through a stranger's silence, but not mine. I wrote about the groceries outside her door and the call I postponed until there was no next call. The pages did not sound like proof. They sounded incomplete in mine. The next evening, Lena sent one message. Her mother had spent years asking people which box they would save, she wrote, but maybe an answer only mattered if someone was there to carry it with you. She was not ready to forgive me. She was willing to hear what I remembered. She asked me to meet her in a library media room and tell it in my own words, without making Annika kinder or making myself better. A week later, we sat across from each other at a small table. Lena set up the library camera and checked the live preview. Her hands shook as she adjusted the frame. I kept mine in my lap and waited for her to decide when we would begin. On the little screen, I reached across the table to steady her hand. I had not moved yet. The time in the corner was 7 minutes ahead.